لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله.
Prominent Sudanese Sufi Figures, أرباب العقائد 1608-1691. Dear viewers, in our second encounter with the eminent scholar Gnostic, Sheikh Arbab al-Aqaid, the teacher of teachers, we are delighted to renew our meeting with this remarkable intellectual figure and present him today as both a scholar and an author. An author who was among the pioneers of writing and scholarship in Sudan. Indeed, he was one of the earliest Sudanese scholars to enter the field of authorship and academic writing in 17th century Sudan. Among his greatest scholarly contributions was the composition of a work on Ash'ari theology entitled الجواهر الحسان في تحقيق معرفة أركان الإيمان. The beautiful pillars in establishing knowledge of the pillars of faith. This valuable work reflects the depths of his knowledge and his firm grounding in the science of Islamic creed for centuries. The book continued to circulate beyond Sudan, particularly in several African countries. It is then disappeared and remained lost for nearly 400 years until it was recently rediscovered and republished. Today, we have an electronic copy of this important work in our possession, and we are pleased to share some of its contents with our esteemed viewers in this episode. So welcome once again, dear audience, and I hope you will enjoy this informative journey. Stay with us. So, dear viewers, our encounter with the renowned Sudanese and prominent Sufi scholar Arbab al-Aqaid renews today, and in this episode I would like to introduce him as an author. For his credit, a composition of a book on theology. So I would like to share you, the audience, I would like to share the views, the content, and the significance of this important book. So here I would like to start with historical background. And in this historical background, I would like to share the history of theology in terms of teaching, in terms of writing during French Sultanate, based on the sources that already have taken to present this episode. So Sudan during the era of the French Sultanate was deeply influenced by the scholarly traditions of Islamic Maghreb. The French period marked the consolidation of Islamic rule over a region with a long-standing Christian heritage. During this era, great importance was attached to the study of Islamic theology, which was cultivated by distinguished scholars renowned for their intellectual rigor. These scholars adopted a rational method of argumentation that moved beyond the highly technical terminology of scholastic theologians, while perceiving the essence of theological knowledge and perceiving it in a concise and accessible manner. This approach made the study of theology attractive and drew students from far and wide. The curriculum of theology in Sudan was largely based on the popular theological texts in circulating throughout North Africa at that time. The Sudanese historian Yusuf al-Hassan described theological studies during the French period as revolving around the Sanusiya texts composed by Muhammad al-Sanusi at-Tilmisani. Particularly, the major treatise known as Aqidat Ahl al-Tawheed, the intermediate texts, possibly Al-Murshida, the shorter work al-Barahin. Numerous commentaries on these works found their way into Sudan. Sudanese scholars also produce original contributions. In terms of commentaries on the book of As-Sanusiya, which, as I have stated shortly, it focuses on the theology. So, among the Sudanese scholars who produce original contributions, including Al-Mudawi Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Kadawi, who wrote 4 commentaries, Muhammad ibn Adlan al-Shingiti, who authored both major and minor commentaries on al-Barahin, and another on Ash'ari Creed, Abdullah ibn Dafa'allah al-Araki, who composed 2 poetic works based on As-Sanusi writings, and then أرباب العقائد, who authored الجواهر, a highly beneficial work on the pillars of faith. Rare surviving Sudanese work. Unfortunately, most of these Sudanese theological works have been lost. Apart from unpublished or unknown manuscripts, almost none have survived except the book presently before us. This fact gives Al-Jawahir al-Hisan exceptional significance. It became one of the most celebrated theological texts of its time and was adopted as a standard textbook in many Quranic schools, khalawis, and centers of learning. The author, I'm referring here to Arbab al-Aqaid, personally taught the book in his study circles, producing numerous distinguished students whose reputation is spread across a vast geographical area extending from the Red Sea to the Atlantic Ocean, encompassing much of sub-Saharan Islamic Africa. The manuscript I'm referring here furthermore on the book of Arbab al-Aqaid, that is Al-Jawahir al-Hisan. The manuscript tradition of this work remains visible today in countries such as Ethiopia, Chad, Mali, Niger, Mauritania. Its influence, however, extended even further. Manuscripts have also been discovered in Indonesia and Albania, demonstrating its remarkable reach throughout the Islamic world. Importance of the book today. This work offers scholars an important window into the methods and pedagogical approaches using teaching Islamic theology during the 10th and 11th Islamic centuries, correspond to 16th and 17th century CE. It also provides an opportunity toward the rational to study the rational arguments employed by leading scholars of that era in defending Islamic belief, and especially relevant endeavor today when rational inquiry profoundly influences contemporary thought and when many people continue to seek spiritual guidance. Furthermore, the book of الجواهر الحسان serves as an entry point into the largely forgotten intellectual heritage of the French Sultanate, which was once a major center of learning that attracted Muslims from across Africa, particularly because it lay along important African pilgrimage routes. Due to the scarcity of surviving manuscripts and the disappearance of many contemporary works, this book allows researchers to reconstruct aspects of that intellectual world, including the level of scholarship and education, linguistic and cultural developments, methods of reasoning and forms of argumentation, and the academic interests of students of the period. Why this book matters. The book الجواهر الحسان by the renowned Sudanese writer and scholar أرباب العقائد possesses exceptional importance for several reasons. It occupies a distinguished position among classical works of Islamic theology. It illuminates and understands an understudied chapter of Sudanese intellectual history. It addresses enduring theological questions that continue to engage the modern mind. One of the principal motivations behind editing and publishing this work, besides the fact that the author is an ancestor of the editors, was to revive a significant scholarly legacy that had remained buried and forgotten for centuries. So the audience, I'm quoting from the book. The original text has been published by the descendants of the author. So the audience in this part of the episode, I would like to share the author introduction. Since as I have told, the book has been published recently. So here I would like to share the introduction written by the author himself. In the name of God, the one, the unique, the eternal refuge, who neither begets nor begotten, and to whom none is comparable, I praise him for his countless blessings beyond all enumeration, and I thank him for his abundant generosity that encompasses all creation without distinction. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah alone, without partner. The testimony of a servant who entrusts all his affairs to him. I also bear witness that our Master, leader, beloved, and intercessor Muhammad is his servant and messenger, the seal of his messengers and prophets. May blessings and peace be upon him, his family, his companions, who are among his closest and most beloved flowers, and upon and upon those who follow them in guidance until the day of judgment. Thereafter, know that the happiest of God's servants are those who attain a true understanding of the matters of faith that God hath made obligatory upon them. Such understanding can only be achieved through acquiring sound knowledge of the pillars of faith. For through this knowledge, one is safeguarded from the atonement of eternal punishment and becomes deserving the bliss of paradise. A bliss that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no human heart has ever conceived. When ignorance became widespread and hearts grew distant from understanding what is required, and when extracting the doctrines of faith from the concise and extensive works of early scholars became difficult, I sought good guidance in composing a brief treatise that would encompass all the essential pillars of faith. My intention was to make it accessible to every beginner, beneficial to advanced students, understandable to the uninformed, and worthy of study by every intelligent, thoughtful person. I name it الجواهر الحسان في تحقيق معرفة أركان الإيمان. I ask God to make it beneficial to all who seek to learn from it, to clarify its meanings for those who pursue understanding, to ease what may seem difficult within it, and through His grace to bring its understanding closer to people's heart. Indeed, God is capable of all things and worthy of granting assistance, support, and answering prayers. So this is just the words of the author making the introduction for the edited and published version of the book. Meanwhile, I would like further to share the publisher introduction. I'm referring here to الجواهر الحسان. So, this book is a concise treatise on Islamic creed and one of the works of the Ash'ari theological tradition. الجواهر الحسان في تحقيق معرفة أركان الإيمان. This book on Islamic theology, authored by the Sudanese scholar أرباب ibn Ali al-Khartoumi, popular known as أرباب العقائد. The book focuses on explaining the attributes of God, the proper manner of worshipping Him, and clarifying the principles and pillars of Islamic belief. For centuries, this work was taught in khalwas or in khalawis, traditional Quranic schools, an education institution across a vast region stretching from present-day Sudan to Mauritania. The rediscovery of the manuscript after 4 centuries. More than 400 years after its composition and subsequent disappearance, the Sudanese journalist and researcher Ahmed Muhammad al-Badawi succeeded in locating a copy of the manuscript in Paris. In a lengthy article describing his remarkable journey in search of this precious scholarly treasure, he wrote, I had previously lived in West Africa and became accustomed to hearing students and researchers frequently mention a theology book attributed to scholar by a distinctive name throughout West Africa. The manuscript of this long lost work, absent from Sudan itself, were perceived in both private and public libraries throughout West Africa, particularly in Timbuktu, Dakar, Accra. He also found that the book had already been printed in Burkina Faso, following the West African tradition of handwritten publications using the Maghribi Andalusian script, in which the letter Fa carries a single dot below and Qaf a single dot above. This discovery confirmed the statement of the historian Muhammad Noor ibn Dhifallah, who wrote, "Students traveled great distances to study theology and Sufism under Arbab al-Aqaid. His students numbered more than 1,000, extending from the French territories to Borno. His students and their students spread his teachings. He authored a book on the pillars of faith called Al-Jawahir, from which people benefited both in East and West and the West. All the surviving copies bear the author's name, Arbab al-Khartoumi, and carry the title الجواهر في أركان الإيمان. Many of these manuscripts also include the name by which he was widely known in West Africa, Baba Gudu. The historian of Darfur, Rex Ovahe, noted in the first volume of Arabic literature of Africa that several West African Arabic manuscripts are attributed to Arbab al-Khartoumi. He commented, Ovahe commented, 9 manuscript copies held at the National Library of Paris, one anonymous 18th century manuscript received at Yale University. Motivated by this information, Muhammad al-Badawi traveled to Paris and its National Library, assisted by his wife, Dr. Aisha Umar, who was then pursuing a doctorate in French literature at French University, and whose command of French greatly facilitated the research. He also acknowledged the assistance of the Al-Furqan Islamic Heritage Foundation. Upon returning to Durman, he delivered Muhammad al-Badawi delivered 2 manuscript copies to Sheikh Ibrahim al-Darir, then Secretary General of the Islamic Fiqh Council, so that the book could be critically edited and published as a scholarly edition accompanied by a comprehensive study. The publication also benefited from the expertise of his brother Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad al-Darir, who contributed to the scholarly review and proofreading process. The book was subsequently printed at the government-owned currency printing press. Today, printed editions also exist in West Africa, including editions published in Burkina Faso. One particular interesting discovery was that the Burkinabe edition included the author's famous West African title, Baba Gudu. So in West Africa, African countries, by the way, and I have pointed shortly that some students that were part of Arbab al-Aqaid scientific session were from Borno, from West Africa. For this, the book and the author himself in that area, known as Baba Gudu, On the cover page, a name largely unknown even to many of his descendants in Sudan, despite his enduring fame across West Africa. Sum up, and based on the article written by أحمد محمد البدوي entitled في زمن التصحر الثقافي والأخلاقي ذبت بحر وأرباب العقائد وأرباب الفضيحة. So I would like to conclude quoting from this article as the summary for the book itself. Important information was presented regarding the book of Sheikh Arbab Ibn Ali. The following points were highlighted. There are printed editions of the book in West Africa, including an edition published in Mpopo, Dialoso, Burkina Faso. الجواهر is essentially a commentary, sharh, on the theological text al-Barahin, and the complete text of al-Barahin is incorporated throughout the work. Arbab's commentary on al-Barahin closely corresponds in numerous passages, definitions, and technical formulations to the commentary written by Sheikh Ahmed ibn Isa al-Ansari. This information also suggests that al-Jawahir should be viewed not merely as an independent treatise on creed, but as part of a broader scholarly tradition of Ash'ari theological instruction that flourished in Sudan and was closely connected to the intellectual currents of North Africa and Al-Azhar. So the audience share part of what has been written on the book of Al-Jawahir Al-Hassan by the Sudanese scholar and Senate Arbab al-Aqaid, and the written book shows the contributions that have been taken by Sufis during 16th century and 17th century. More specifically in this special or particular context was in the area of theology. So to present this episode, I have relied on الجواهر الحسان في تحقيق معرفة أركان الإيمان, written by أرباب العقائد, and have been reviewed by حسين الفضل عباس, محمد السيد أرباب, محمد صلاح عصملي, and has been published in 2017. أحمد محمد البدوي, an article entitled في زمن التصحر الثقافي والأخلاقي ذبت بحر وأرباب العقائد وأرباب الفضيحة, published on 9 of November 2018, available on Sudan Nile. And then مجلة العلماء الأفارقة study under title published paper تحت عنوان مخطوطات في العقيدة الأشعرية بمعهد الأبحاث في العلوم الإنسانية بالنيجر, published article on April 2015. By this the audience I come to the end of the episode. Till thank you in another episode. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.